Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my DDD Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post Battles of Legend Monstrous Revenge. We have the new DDDD Super Dimensional Sovereign Emperor Zero Paradox from the latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster set. This is one of the boss monsters that Reiji used in the manga, a very specific powerhouse monster, and I wanted to update the deck with the possibility that if you wanted to play this card in the DDD deck, just how to play it, because there's a very specific situation and how you special summon it out onto the field. And with it, we also have the updates for some of the other changes I made to the DDD deck, which main focus is to summon out all the many different DDD pendulum monsters to then go for the many extra deck monsters that we can summon out, whether they be Link, Fusion, or Synchro, or Xyz. We have all available to us in this deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with our new boss monster for the main deck, which is the DDDD Super Dimensional Sovereign Paradox Zero Sovereign. So with this card, it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned by its own effect. When you pendulum summon a monster, while the total pendulum scales in your pendulum zones are higher than the total levels of the pendulum summon monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. If you do, destroy as many other cards on the field as possible. Then you can place this card in your pendulum zone. Once per turn, if another face-up DDD monster you control leaves the field by a spell card or effect, this card's attack becomes 6,000. So it's a way to get a true powerhouse on the field. The place in the pendulum scale effect is not, it's optional, so you don't have to place it when you destroy all the cards in the field, but being a way just to clear out other cards on the field, if you happen to clear out that DDD monster as well, with this card on the field, you have a 6,000 attack point boss monster to then swing into your opponent. We only run the one copy though, because there are other ways in the deck that you can search out this card, so you really don't need multiples to have in your hand. And then you have the option for the pendulum zone to target one card in your opponent's pendulum zone and special summon this card. If you do, place that card in your pendulum zone but destroy it during the end phase. This only really is good if you go up against a deck that has pendulum options, which is why it's from the manga, because the good majority of the Arc 5 characters had pendulum decks. But with this card being a one-of, if you do happen to come across a pendulum deck, then you can utilize the pendulum skill a little more. For the other DDD main deck monsters, we're running 3 copies of DD Savant Kepler. When this card's normal or special summon, you can activate one of these effects. You can have and target another DD card you control, return it to the hand, or add one Dark Contract card from your deck to your hand. So you mostly use it for the Dark Contract search, being able to add our Dark Contract with the Gate and then continue your search power, or go for the Dark Contract with the Swamp King. Whatever you need, this card can add to your hand. The 3 copies of DD Savant Copernicus, being the Foolish Burial monster in the deck. When it's normal or special summon, you can send one DD or Dark Contract card from your deck to the graveyard, except for Savant Copernicus. You can only use this effect of Savant Copernicus once per turn. So the send power to set up other cards, whether they be cards like DD Swirl Slime, or even our DD Lamia, or DD Necro Slime in the graveyard for all their many different card effects and setup. Also running 3 copies of DD Griffin. If you control a DD monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. If this card is pendulum summoned, you can discard one DD or Dark Contract card to draw one card. And if it's special summoned from the graveyard, you can add one DD card from your deck to your hand, except for DD Griffin. You can only use each effect of Griffin once per turn, but a great way to utilize it, because you have the special summon play, then sending it off for, let's say, the Link summon or a Fusion play. We'll put it in your extra deck for you to summon back onto the field with a pendulum play. And then if you overlay the 2 into an Xyz monster and detach the material, you can place your DD Griffin in the graveyard for you to summon back from another card like your DD Abyss King Ragnarok. Also running 2 copies of DD Orthros. When you take battle or effect damage, you can special summon this card from your hand. If it's special summoned to your field, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except for Fiend monsters, but they're the majority of our extra deck with all the different DDD extra deck monsters we have. And once per turn in the pendulum scale, you can target one spell or trap on the field and one other DD or Dark Contract card you control and destroy them. So you have more destruction power, but it's mostly here just for another special summon play, because if you summon it when you have and use your Zero King Rage search power, you can have this as the burn damage as well, with your pendulum link options as well for that burn damage to summon out an additional level 4 monster, which is also a tuner on the field for you to use. And then for some of the one-ups for the Pendulum monsters, one copy of DD Cerberus. When this card is Pendulum summoned from the hand while you control a DD monster other than Cerberus, you can target a continuous spell in your graveyard, add to your hand, giving you search power back for some of your contract cards. And also the one copy of Divine King Zero Rage, one of the better cards to set up in the Pendulum scale with your DDD King Gilgamesh, because then you can Pendulum and summon cards back onto the field, like your DD Savant Kepler from the extra deck, the one DDD Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok for the graveyard special summon power, and the one Savant Thomas for the additional recycle power from your Pendulum zone, and from the extra monsters zone also. And then for the non-Pendulum DD monsters, 3 copies of DD Swirl Slime. This card and your DD Necro Slime can help to set up just a DD Genghis summon onto the field to then overlay into cards like your DDD Wave High King Caesar, which is a great Nibiru counter in the deck. And then you also have the banish option from the graveyard to special summon a DD monster from your hand onto the field. And for the other one-ups, the 1 copy of DD Lamia. It's another one of your tuners that you can use to then summon out some of your synchro options, like your DDD Curse King Siegfried from the extra deck. The 1 copy of Necro Slime. It's the graveyard banish play, so whether you set this card up with Copernicus or send it off of Swirl Slime, you'll have another fusion option in the graveyard for you as well. And the 1 DD Vice Typhoon. With this card, giving you, if it's in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can fusion summon a level 8 or higher DDD fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing the cards needed from your graveyard for the card. So a great way to summon out your DDD Flame High King Genghis onto the field, a spell and trap negate on your turn for your opponent's cards, and also an extra special summon when a DD monster is normal or special summon. For more of the hand trap options, I run the 3 copies of Ash Blossom and the 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, just my hand trap lineup of choice in the deck to stop my opponent's plays if I happen to go second against them. And for the spells, I run 3 copies of Dark Contract with the Gate. During your main phase, you can add 1 DD monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Dark Contract with the Gate once per turn, and once per turn during your standby phase, take 1,000 points of damage. So it's just a once per turn search. You will take the damage unless you have other cards on the field that prevent you from taking damage, like your Divine Zero King Rage, and then just getting the additional search for whatever DD monster you may need, whether they be one-ofs or ones that can start off your engine. And then for some of the other one-ofs, the 1 copy of Dark Contract with the Swamp King for more fusion plays and being able to even banish them from our graveyard. And the 1 Dark Contract with the Patent License, being able to restrict our opponent's summoning depending on what monsters we control as well, whether they be Link, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz. You can stop your opponent when you have all of those different monsters on the field as well, and inflict burn damage to your opponent as well when they try to control that monster also. And then you also have the additional search with this card if it's sent to the graveyard to add a DD monster from your graveyard or 1 face-up DD Pendulum monster from your extra deck back to your hand if sent to the graveyard off of another card. For more search power, the 2 copies of Piraeus Map. This card can be used to search out whether it be our Copernicus or even our Kepler. And then you will take half the life point damage afterwards, but it's another way just to search out one of the starters that we may need for one of our many different plays. And I also run 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. This card just helps with more of the draw power. If you happen to add back or open up multiples of the same DD card in your hand, depending on what that card may be, you can use the Allure of Darkness just for an added draw power to get more of the usable cards in your hand as well. With the last of the spells being the 1 copy of Call by the Grave and the 1 for 1, whether you summon out your DD Lamia, your DD Necro Slime, or your DD Savant Kepler. With the 1 for 1, you have search and setup thanks to it, and more graveyard shutdown if your opponent tries to stop any of your DD monster effects. With the only trap that we run in the deck being the 1 copy of DDD Headhunt. If you control a DDD monster, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase of this turn, but its effects are negated and it cannot declare an attack, so then you just have another resource to take as your own with your opponent's monster. Moving on now to the extra deck, 3 copies of DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh. When it's special summon, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except for your Pendulum Zones, and with different DD monsters. And then you take 2 DD Pendulum monsters for the different names and place them in your Pendulum Zones and take 1,000 points of damage. If this link summon card is destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster or by an opponent's card effect while it's in the owner's monster zone, you can special summon 1 DD monster from your extra deck or graveyard in defense position. You can only use each effect of DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh once per turn. So you have the Pendulum Scale set up, and if your opponent does get rid of this card on the following turn, you have the special summon play, which you can use to get out any of the other DD monsters we run, like King Genghis, having more special summon plays, but this card also is used for the overlay play, which I can go over at the end of the video, for our Wave King High Caesar. And also the 1 copy of DDD Flame High King Genghis. Spoke before about the option of once per turn. When a spell or trap card is activated, you can negate the activation during your turn, so remember that. And then the 1 DDD Oracle King d'Arc. Any effect damage that would inflict damage to you makes you gain that much instead. So if you have King d'Arc on the field, whenever you would take damage from a dark contract, you'll gain that back as life points instead. And also the 2 copies of DDD Divisor King Deus Machinax. You can also see some of this using a DDD monster you control as material. So if you have the King Gilgamesh, you can even overlay right on top of your Link monster using this. And then also just having the option, once per chain, when a monster card your opponent controls activates its effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card or destroy 1 dark contract. And if you do, attach that opponent's monster as material. So the opponent's monster will resolve, but then you'll just be able to attach it onto your Deus King Machinax. And also the 1 copy of DDD Wave King Caesar and the 1 copy of DDD Marksman King Tell. You have the overlay option on Caesar with your King Tell, but also with this card, when it's sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Dark Contract card from your deck to your hand, giving you more of a search, like some of the one-ofs you run, like the Dark Contract with the patent license, or with your DDD Marksman King Tell. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can send 1 DD or Dark Contract card from your deck to the graveyard. So then you can send your Dark Contract with the patent license to the graveyard off of King Tell, and then gain the additional search of a DDD monster from your graveyard or face up in the Pendulum Zone back to your hand. And then lastly, the 1 copy of DDD Wave King High Caesar, the 1 Kali Yuga, and the 1 Zeus, being the only non-fiend monster we run on the deck, but still situational when we can overlay it during the turns that allow with no restrictions over one of our Xyz monsters, with the only synchro that I run being the 1 copy of DDD Curse King Siegfried for the additional face-up card negation, and then also the gaining life points for each dark contract you control when this card is destroyed by battle or card effect. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck with our new boss monster, it comes down to the Pendulum Summon that you can do as well. So with our first initial play being the Kepler Startup as well, you can then use your Kepler to search your Dark Contract, and the DDDD play with the Sovereign Emperor Paradox will come into play if you want to use it mostly if your opponent has a board presence, because then this card will be able to destroy every other card on the field. So then you will use Kepler to search out the Dark Contract with the gate. You will activate this, and if you already have the Zero King Paradox in your hand, you will search out the other needed card, which can be your DD Griffin. If you have the DD Griffin in your hand, you can search out the Sovereign, depending on which one you need to add for the play. You will then special summon out your DD Griffin. Make sure you do not place your Dark Contract in the Pendulum Zone, because then you will use these two to link summon, placing them face up in the extra deck, and then summoning out your High King Gilgamesh. And then with this play, you will set the Pendulum Scale with your Gilgamesh with 2 different monsters as well for the play. Now, what you have to do is remember the restriction for the Pendulum Summon of your Zero King Paradox. So with the 2 monsters you'll be summoning equal out to level 5, you'll have to set up the Pendulum Scales. So you will go with a Savant Thomas and a Zero King Rage. So the total Pendulum Scale will equal up to 6 using these 2 cards. You will then Pendulum Summon with your King Gilgamesh, summoning back your 2 monsters on the field. This is when the effect of your DDDD Superdimensional Sovereign Zero Paradox will activate, special summoning it onto the field. And then this is the best board wipe you can use, I would say, to wipe out all other cards on the field, including your opponents, leaving this card on the field as well. And then you have the additional play, because once again, if a face-up DD monster you control leaves the field by a effect, this card becomes 6,000 attack points. So you have the 6,000 swing against your opponent, since your DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh, while it was on the field, left the field due to your card effect. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. It's a really, really fun deck, and always love updating it for the channel. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.